Hey guys, this episode is sponsored by Idaho Realtor Jennifer McCulloch with Century 21 High Desert. In this competitive market, having a representative that has knowledge and expertise makes all the difference. Whether you're looking to buy, sell, or invest in Southeast Idaho, you owe it to yourself to speak with Jennifer. She's available at 208-520-2012. This episode is also sponsored by Dynamic Towing. For all your roadside assistance and towing needs, call Dynamic Towing at 208-403-4164. They're a family-owned and operated business. They've been here in Southeast Idaho and surrounding areas for many years. They do really cool services, guys. These include fuel deliveries, jump starts, lockouts, tire changes, towing, and accident towing as well. So give them a call if you're in need of any of these services and you're on the side of the road. Better put this phone number into your phone right now, 208-403-4164, to make sure you're safe. Give Dynamic Towing a call. Guys, I have Donovan Stokes here with me today. This is kind of a fun podcast, I think, because we haven't really had a chance to meet each other. Like, this is straight up on the fly.
Absolutely.
So we kind of get introduced through a mutual friend in Dave Nielsen.
Yes.
So he's kind of talking to me on our podcast we did a couple weeks back of the YMCA and how they're trying to build a new playground for the kids over there and raise some money.
Absolutely.
And right when he was telling me about it, I'm just like, I'm in. Totally in. Because just driving through there, and when I talked to you on the phone to kind of set this up, I mean, I've been there several times, and over the course of 3 or 4 years, and my kids, you know, they join in with the athletics, mostly either basketball or indoor soccer, or indoor flag football, basketball, and I've walked through there, and I kind of always thought, I was like, I wasn't even sure if it was the YMCA's playground.
Right.
Because it's fairly small. I mean,
is.
you would think that it would be kind of more elaborate, I guess.
Right.
But, so yeah, we're trying to, I kind of teamed up with you guys to raise some money. So kind of talk to us a little bit about that, if you would, Donovan. Just like, how did this even come about? Were you just, because you're the child director over at the YMCA, right?
I am.
Is that what it is?
Yes, I am.
Awesome.
And so I'm in my 5th year. Again, I've been working with kids for 30 plus years in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And so when I started the YMCA, I kind of felt like you did, needed to upgrade. Definitely it's an older building. The YMCA had been there since the 1940s, I believe. And I believe the playground could be about 20, 30 years old.
Okay.
And so when I first started, it's always been a dream of mine to upgrade the playground, but there was so many other things that needed to happen.
Yeah.
And so now, 4 years later, in my 5th year, I just felt this is the right time to really upgrade the playground and have the so the kids can have a place to have fun, socially engage with each other, and
yeah.
We have toddlers through 6th grade, and so hopefully the new playground will capture both age category attention, because right now it's kind of elementary toddler type playground, and so there's not enough for especially the older kids to also engage and
Sure.
enjoy. And so this playground will have a little bit of both worlds together.
Well, you were talking about. Were you saying something about basketball court, maybe?
Yeah, I'm looking at maybe in there's a certain area of the playground that I believe is enough space to put an outdoor, if it's just one hoop, a basketball hoop out there, and add some 4 squares and some other things for the older kids to engage in. And so working on that piece as we speak now, the layout.
I mean, of course, we got these long winters and stuff around here, you know what I mean? But
exactly.
Still, it's for them to get outside and get fresh air and play basketball.
Exactly.
It just, to me, it's weird because this is kind of foreign to me, thinking that I would just assume that we would have that.
Right.
You know what I
would
mean?
think so, too. I thought that, too. When
it's
I
like,
first started.
we'd have a full-size basketball court outside. and just big, legit, equipment for tall kids or not tall kids, but for the bigger kids to play on.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or some sort of obstacle course to kind of do, some exercising and, different events like that. So, but yeah, man, I think for me, just giving back to the community is such a huge part of, it's actually been a journey for me for the last probably 7-8 years. Where I've really focused on, man, how can I serve? How can I give back? And that's why I'm stoked that you're on the podcast, because people listening to this, I think a lot of them they have these ideas or they have these wants, I guess, of like, man, I want to help out with that cause, but they don't necessarily know how to get into it, or they just never pull the trigger. And then I don't know why that is with humans, but we're just kind of, we see things and we want it to be better, but we're not really doing things. We're not putting our money where our mouth is type thing, or we're not taking immediate action to go serve in the community. Right. But I hear a lot of people talk about doing so. Right. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
So I'm just like, man, this is something a lot of people should be able to get behind. Most of us have children. Most of us in this community have utilized the YMCA to get our kids into athletics. Right. It's an easy way to give back. Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean?
I totally agree.
But so you, how do people donate? I mean, I already kind of know how it's working, but what are you telling everybody right now?
So there's 2 ways you can donate. There is a QR code on the flyer, and it's definitely on my Facebook page, and it's circulating around the community. Mm-hmm. And all you have to do is put your phone up to the QR code, and the link will pull up, and then it will step by step. It will show you how to donate. And of course, if you don't have that, then you can just go to www.idahofallsymca.org and go to donate now, and then it will take you to that same link, and then it's self-explanatory once you get there.
And there's kind of like, when I went on there looking at it, it seemed like there were some different campaigns that they're doing. Right. So this is the playground campaign.
Right. It's the playground campaign. So when you get to the campaign part, just scroll down and go to playground, and then you can follow the next step. There's a campaigner button there that you don't need to worry about. Once you hit the playground, then those funds, that donation will go to the right place. It will go right into the playground fund. And then you just add your information and hit submit, and then it will generate a receipt for you as it relates to your donation.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So it's very simple.
Very simple.
Very simple.
Heck donate. Yeah, man. I'm excited. I'm excited to hit the goal, because it's 20,000 is kind of the floor of it, right? It's like we need a minimum of 20,000, but we want to get above that if we
20, can. 30,000, which will also include a brand new fence to put around the playground, a more secure, the YMCA, because of the area, the community in which it's in. It'd be befitting to also include a more secure fencing, and the fencing is old also, and so we definitely want to just create a whole new makeup for the playground, and so we're excited about it.
I can't believe that place was built in the 40s.
Yeah, I can't. That's hard to believe.
Like when we played basketball in there, I'm like, "Ooh, man, this is old." Like you go down those sketchy stairs, and I'm just like, "Oh man." Right. My first time there, I wasn't anticipating that, but I mean, I don't know. I guess that's the only YMCA I've been to.
Right. You know, the only one we have here locally, I believe. Yeah.
Is there? So how did you get into like, helping the youth and stuff like that? You said you've been doing it for 30 years. Is this something that you're just like, man, this is what I was born to do?
I'm getting old. Time for me to retire.
Dude, I hear you.
But I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina. And so I come from a single family home, and have 2 brothers and a sister. And so I'm the oldest. And so if you're the oldest, then, a lot of the responsibility was in your hands. Yeah. My mother worked a lot. God bless her. She really worked hard to make sure we had a roof over our head and food and clothing. And so I was always in that caretaker mode, I should say.
Sure.
And then as I got older, I just my desire was to be a elementary school principal, and maybe start my own school and things of that nature. So I've always had a heart for children, and my mom used to say that I used to walk around in my diapers when I was toddler, trying to take care of somebody else's baby. And that's what she said it was so cute to see that, that kind of stuff. But
yeah,
but ever since then, I've always had a love for kids, and always wanted to see, and I think just maybe growing up the way I did, always wanting kids to, have a better life than I did, and not experience some of the struggles perhaps that I've experienced. And so, I spent my whole life, trying to protect children and youth from any hardship or self-esteem issues, etc. So that's how my passion for children came about. So
did you ever were you teaching at all? Did you ever make it like teaching in elementary schools and stuff?
And so I joined the military.
Oh,
and,
cool.
And after I left the military, I went and got my bachelor's degree. And then from there, I was working as a kindergarten teacher, in-house substitute teacher, meaning I belonged to all of the classrooms.
Okay.
So I did that. I worked in middle school, started a mentoring program for middle school. And then I moved on from there to work with at-risk youth, young people who, for whatever reason, could no longer attend a public school, and so they would come to an alternative school to continue their education and get their high school diploma.
Okay.
And so I did that also.
Yeah, man, that would be. It'd be cool because you're being a mentor to these younger kids, this younger generation, and basically trying to kind of give them not shortcuts, but kind of like hold their hand around certain obstacles that come in their life. Like, hey, I've been there. This is like, you don't want to be going down this road. Like, you need to be doing this.
Exactly.
I find a lot of that type of satisfaction from coaching youth sports. Like I was telling you on the phone that I coach youth basketball and football, and man, there was just, I didn't think at first when I got into it, I did it because I wanted to coach my son, and we couldn't find a team for him to get on. Okay. And so I'm like, well, I'll put together a team. And so I went on Facebook and said, hey, does anybody want to join our team? And I just kind of picked up these kids that were in the same position where they didn't know a coach. They didn't have the connections. And so I put together this team, and I've been able to kind of that nucleus. I've been able to carry that team for the last 3 or 4 years. And it's just been awesome. It's just been a great experience to see them kind of grow, and just they listen to you so differently than parents.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's kind of difficult with my son. I try to be like, okay, when I'm coaching, but then, you get the chance to be the dad. You know what I mean? Right. But some of these other kids, it's just a blast to see them work hard for something, and their parents are telling them what to do, but it just doesn't sink in like the coach does. So, dude, I applaud you, man. I applaud you. That is
a lot of work, a lot of sacrifices, but it's rewarding.
So, what brought you out to Idaho?
Well,
because you were in Colorado Springs before you came to Idaho.
Exactly, and so I was living in Colorado Springs, and then had some situations that arise that really made me think about my future.
Yeah.
Needing a change. Felt like I plateaued where I was living, and it seemed like everything just kind of happened when it was supposed to happen. Mm-hmm. And so I knew some people here, and so they mentioned Idaho Falls as an option, to relocate. Yeah. And after a couple of months of thinking about it, made a decision to do so. So
that's awesome, man. So you've been here for 5 years?
I've been here about 7.
7?
Close to 7 years.
That's awesome. So I saw you. You're like running out in the cold in the morning, dude.
I know. I'm crazy. I don't know.
And I'm like, what in the hell is wrong with this dude, man?
I know.
Like I think about doing that, but I never execute it.
Yeah.
Like the other day, the sun was shining. I was like, man, it feels like spring. It's like damn near 40 degrees. This is awesome.
Absolutely.
I'm like, I told my wife, babe, I'm going to go run through the subdivision and stuff. No, it didn't happen. But I see you on your social media. I mean, you're buttoned up, dude. You got a beanie on, and you're just
I'm
like
all wrapped up. Oh yeah.
I'm like, dude, he is brave. He is brave. I mean, how do you? Is running something that you do a lot?
Not a whole lot. I have because of the military, I have some issues with my knees at times.
Mm-hmm.
But when I have a lot on my mind, and dealing with projects, or just dealing with day-to-day living, jogging helps me think. It helps me clear my mind, and so I really like doing it. Some of the ideas that have come across my mind happen while I'm jogging.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm dealing with a situation, or whether it's personal or professional,
yeah,
running kind of helps clear my mind and my thinking. And sometimes I have music on, and I'm wrapped up, and it's snowy outside. I'm the only one out, out there, and gives me some time to just really think and of course
the noise.
Physical, but physical exercise and trying to maintain my health and wellness is.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you like what kind of things you do because that's a big thing that I kind of geek out on when I see people. Like, what are they doing to center themselves? What are they doing to strengthen their the mental side of things and the physical side? Because I feel like the body and the mind are just. It's so important to keep those centered. Right. And for me, I'm somebody who is, I've dealt with anxiety issues pretty much my whole life. Mm-hmm. And then that kind of bled into depression because I didn't take care of the anxiety, and different, just my career path and things like that. I've had very challenging jobs and challenging, business ventures and stuff. Mm-hmm. And for me, I'm starting to kind of shift down a little bit and think, okay, I don't need to have the more attitude. Mm-hmm. I think that's I see that in society a lot today where do more. And for me, I was always doing that. Like, if I don't wake up early, then I'm not doing the right things. If I don't exercise today, I'm not doing the right things. And so for me, I had to kind of slow that down and just say, okay, what are the things that are important? Exercise is definitely important, physical fitness, because everything else doesn't work unless your body and your mind are, where they need to be.
Learn that the hard way.
Did you?
Oh, yes.
How so?
Yeah. Well, I depression have a tendency to run in my family a lot. Mm-hmm. And so there are times when I will go through seasonal depression.
Man, you moved to the wrong place.
I know, I'm crazy. I know. Holiday blues. My birthday is Christmas Day. And so the holidays, maybe not having a family, which is a family-oriented town, right?
Yeah.
And so because I am a thinker, I love words. I published 2 books.
Ooh, nice.
And so I have a tendency to sit in my head. Mm-hmm. And if something is troubling me or something is bothering me, I tend to wallow there. And then it's almost like it develops hands, and it pulls me down this
rabbit hole,
this abyss, as I call it.
Okay.
And so the physical exercise and the running definitely helps. Is my way of fighting back, if you will, to keep from going there. If I can focus on physical strength or just running and just, like you said, the body always wins. Your mind can take you wherever it want to take you, but if your body doesn't want to move, it will not move. And so I had to really fight against depression by increasing some exercise and really getting out. For some reason, I love running in the cold.
Really?
Oh yeah. I don't know. Well, actually, they say you burn more calories when you're running in the cold because
you're shivering and you're running
and so. But because I know this is the kind of the time of year that I struggle the most.
Yeah.
And so then I just increased my workout. And I was sitting at work, and one day I just thought, I'm gonna go running. And I'm gonna go running Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6:00 in the morning. I don't know where that came from, but
sounds good.
So I've been keeping to my schedule.
Have you?
Oh yeah, I've been keeping to my schedule.
Good.
And then I do
man.
CrossFit at the Y, and I work out in the evenings.
Nice.
Also, so and it helps me stay focused, helps me keep my mind sharp, and definitely help me not feel or think that I am this alone on this Gilligan Island, as I call it, by myself. That I do have friends and support around me. But sometimes when you're depressed, right, you don't see that.
No.
You don't, you feel like you're just in this alone and by yourself. And so I had to do something to remind depression how strong I am. And this is how I'm going to deal with you.
Yeah.
I'm going to physically keep myself in shape. I'm going to drink more water, try and get rest, try and eat right, prep, my dinners, and stay away from fast food and things that will make me slouchy and
lethargic.
irritable, lethargic, exactly.
Yeah.
And so those things are very important to me.
Man, I'm very similar with what you're describing. I didn't realize that though, because depression's a bugger, man, because you don't. It's not like a car accident. It's not like,
Exactly.
Oh, this is what just happened. It is like a bled out thing, and then all of a sudden it catches up with you, and that's because a lot of times we're not taking care of. I think this, especially in men, like we kind of have this alpha ego type thing, and for me, I was always like, oh, I got to be strong. That's how I prop myself up in society. Is like I got to be strong.
Exactly.
I can't, so it was all physical for me, all tactical.
Right.
But then I started learning how to get more strategical, and to get inside my head more, because that was the problem. Is I'm inside my head so much all the time. I'm like you, deep thinker. And so I have to do a lot of different things to where that's why I have a guitar. I bought a guitar. I'm like, hey, I'm going to teach myself to play guitar. And for 15, 20 minutes of practicing, it quiets all the noise.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And then, I like sports. I'm a huge sports buff, and I can get into sports and stuff. But then you start kind of comparing. For me, I'm so competitive and so results driven that it was kind of like I just had to be at peace with sports, not like really rooting hard for somebody. I have some favorite, athletes and teams, but I got friends that will sit on the couch for 12 hours a day and watch sports. I can't do that.
Right.
Like, I'll just give me a sample size of it, and then I'll kind of check the news here and there. But I'm so busy trying to do these other things, I don't, indulge in that a whole lot. But the mental side is what I failed to see and failed to take care of, and that's kind of how this Someday Life journey started. Is this mental pattern of saying I was going to do things, but then I never followed up on it. I never went through with it. I would start it and then I would stop. I'd start it and then I would stop. And, with being an insurance agent, that's what I do now. I have an insurance business, and speaking with thousands of people over the course of the last 12 years, I've realized that a lot of people are kind of in the same boat. They end up older in life and they never quite fulfilled what they wanted to accomplish. And it feels like everybody has that. Like maybe it's a relationship that took you somewhere, or you got to take care of your parents, or you got to take care of something else, or you don't have the time, or your career doesn't allow you. And the next thing you know, you're 60 years old, your physical being is diminishing, your mental capabilities are diminishing, and then you're sitting here on a mountain thinking, man, I didn't live I said I'd do these things someday, but I never did. So I came up with this thing saying that, life is too short to wait for someday. And I'm just like, man, I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to just kind of preach this message out to people, and not in like a rah, 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 go do it type way. Just more like, I want to talk with cool people. I want to hear their struggles. What are they doing? And kind of put that energy out to the universe, and let everybody, like you say, we're in this together. Right. You know what I mean? It's like, that's so true, man.
We are. And my mind goes back to when I was, I think I was about 10 or 11. And, of course, coming from a single family home, and I'm a type of person, I take things in. I'm a giver by nature. And I had an issue with my father being missing or not being there, and I kind of took that on myself, you know, as to say, maybe if I was an A student, maybe if I was whatever, then dad would be home. And so I kind of took that on to say it was my fault. And and the crazy thing about depression, and that maybe that's one of the reasons why I love working with kids too, is that I thought in my crazy sense of thinking or being a child that if I eliminated myself from the picture, then that will be the thing that will bring dad back home. And so one morning, after my mom went to work, I hid in the room. So she thought I was at school. And when I came out of the room, I went into the bathroom and I took a bottle of pills. And I sat on the bathroom floor and just waiting for, the next process of this, attempting suicide. And but I heard this voice in my head says, "You will live, and you will be okay." And I got up, grabbed my toothbrush handle, stuck it down my throat, and I threw up all of that medicine. And so, ever since that day, I always go back to that place of where I could have ended it all. And so, the physical fitness and the exercise and writing, which I love to do, was my way to remind myself that I do have a purpose and I will live and I will be okay. And I came so close of ending it because I was so broken, if you will, because of coming from a broken home, which everybody in the community was like, "Oh, that's the family that's broken. That's the family that has a single parent," kind of thing. And so I even had a teacher told me, because of your history, the chance of you finishing school or going to college is very slim. Kids like you don't make it that far. I had a fourth grade teacher tell me that.
Damn.
Yeah. And so I think that's where my love for young people and kids come from, because there's so many kids and young people out there perhaps who are feeling the same way. I know the suicide rate here is high in Idaho Falls, and so but that's the thing that drives me. And so, and then when I'm down, and even on my Facebook page, I'm always writing about something. I could be running and see a tree with a broken limb, and I can say, I know what it's like to be broken. I know what it feels like to be missing something, but then I also know what it feels like to be severed also.
Yeah.
So then I deal with the branch, and then I can deal with the tree, because I see myself in both pieces, but I am still here.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that just a little bit, the root system, you don't see it.
You don't see it, exactly.
So, and I think that's why we need to be, just as human beings, we need to be, looking at each other like trees, in the sense of you don't know how that came to be.
Exactly.
And if you can get to know that root system more, then you'd find out that we're all pretty much very damn similar, man.
Exactly.
Because there's a lot of people that have like a lot of struggles, and I'm glad you kind of brought it and shared that depression story and the pill story with me, because I was going to ask you, like, what are some of the bigger struggles that you've dealt with in your life, and that you are kind of that kind of motivates you. Exactly. That's obviously a big one. What made you decide to go into the military then?
It was fun. That's a funny story, actually. My dad, when I graduated from high school, I went to go live with my dad at that point.
Were you trying to make up for kind of like lost time with him, or?
I think so, a little of both. And my mom, because she had 4 kids, and so it was just kind of time for me to leave the nest.
Yeah.
And so there was no other place really to go except to my dad, and he just, basically told me to get in the car. And I thought I said, oh yeah, we going to the store. I'm gonna get some new shoes.
Oh yeah.
No. And so we pull up at the recruiting station.
Are you?
Oh yeah. And he was like, get out. You're signing up. You're going. You're not going to just sit around on the couch and, you don't have a plan. You're not going to college. You didn't prepare yourself for it. So you're going to the military. And so,
whoa.
And then I found myself, leaving that car one moment and being on a Greyhound bus at the time, the next morning going to Fort Sill, Oklahoma for basic training. Scared to death.
Oh man. How old were you?
I was
18? 17, 18?
I was 17 at the time.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it was kind of scary leaving home for the first time, but I am so glad I went through that process because that taught me discipline. It taught me to make my bed.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned so much, and I met some good friends through that. So I am so appreciative of that kick in the butt, if you will, to get me to do something because it led me down so many other wonderful opportunities. And so, thank you, Dad, for listening.
That's awesome. So you've been able to. So yeah, I mean, is your dad? Is he kind of a staple in your life now?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's
we
awesome.
Talk for 3 days, 4 days a week. We laugh and talk about recipes, food, you name it. And so I'm appreciative of my parents. And I tell anybody, love your parents. They're not perfect.
Yeah,
nobody's perfect. Now, granted, when you're growing up, you just think worst person in the world.
Well, you were the oldest, right?
I was the oldest.
So you're knocking down barriers for your younger siblings.
Exactly.
You're the first one to get in trouble for staying out late because your parents don't know how to handle it. I mean, having 3 kids of my own.
Yeah.
Like with my oldest, he puts us in the first time parenting situation.
Exactly. And so ironing clothes, washing dishes, cooking dinner. That was our responsibility that I had. I had to make sure everybody was fed. My mom just, sometimes she would come to me and say, okay, what we having for dinner? She'll buy the food and whatever I needed, and then I was the one that cooked and cleaned and make sure everybody had clean clothes for school and
man, a lot of responsibility at a young age.
Yeah, a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
But I'm appreciative of it. It made me who I am today.
Sure.
And I don't think I would take any of it back. And so definitely grateful, for, I guess the opportunity to serve, in that way. So.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
What do you think about people that, let's say somebody had your same upbringing, but yet they chose a different path? What do you think? Why do you think that is? Do you ever kind of dwell on that a little bit where it's like, what would I do in that situation? Because you hear some people like, you're able to take your childhood and say, I'm grateful for the opportunities. It made me who I am. I don't necessarily want to change anything about it. But then there's some people that are like, they can't stand they don't have a relationship with their mom, with their dad. Choices that they made when they were younger were forced to do. They can never quite be appreciative of that. It's like poor me type attitude.
Right.
And it's just, I've always wondered like what clicks in people's mind to, have you ever thought about that?
I think about that and granted, things are not perfect. Right.
Sure.
And so there are times where in my, sometimes I'll think, I was so in the business of giving.
Mm-hmm.
There were times where I felt that, it wasn't reciprocated. I wasn't getting back what I gave. But then, because I like reading this, I forgot the name of the book, The Awakening by Mark Nepo. He's one of my favorite authors. But in an interview he did with Oprah Winfrey, he had cancer twice and was a professor and divorce, remarried, and had a lot of obstacles in his life. And one thing he mentioned that when he was going through his chemo, his wife came into the room. His first wife came through the room and saw him kind of curled up in the corner like a fetus crying. And she asked him, look at you. I'm paraphrasing. Where is God? I mean, look at you. I mean, where's God in this? And he said, right here. He's right here. And then he goes on to say that really helped me. He says, just because I am broken is no reason to see all things as broken. And so I think we have a tendency to look through dirty lenses. And so, of course, everything on the other side may look clear and wonderful, but if your windows are not clean, then we have a tendency to see the world that way. Mm-hmm. But sometimes it just take something as simple as washing the windows.
Yeah.
So you can see things clearly. And so that was the thing that really helped me to not see the world as why me, woe is me. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, I have my weak moments. I mean, we're human, right? Yeah. But then I quickly have to remind myself, okay, Donovan, you need to get up, clear the window, clear your heart, clear your mind. So then you don't see all things as this punching bag, deeming everyone, holding everyone responsible for what you didn't have. Mm-hmm. It's not fair. Mm-hmm. And so I had to really work at not allowing that. And of course, that comes through depression a lot, sometimes.
Kind of that loneliness, victim mentality of like kind of woe is me, right?
Exactly, yeah. Exactly. And then so now everyone's life is miserable when you enter the room because you bring this smog. In South Carolina, we had smog, this pollution and fog.
Yeah.
To combine together. So you bring this smog into the room, and it changes the atmosphere. And so moments like that, I steal away. I have some alone time. I go running, I get into CrossFit, sweat it out, sit in the hot sauna,
Yeah.
And that kind of helps me keep my window clean. So then I don't see everything as the only word I can think of is dangerous. Mm-hmm. And so
almost like you're on guard, like you're trying to.
Exactly.
It's almost like life is a fight almost for you.
On a daily basis, just constantly fighting and snapping at everybody and everything around you.
Yeah.
That wasn't there from number one.
They just get in the wake of your depression.
They get in the way, right? And then they receive, this inner struggle and war that's going on inside of you, So I had to really
that's why I try to give people the benefit of the doubt, man, as much as I can.
Absolutely.
And I didn't do that. Like I said, it wasn't until I realized that I had a mental illness, of like, man, depression and anxiety, I can see how this takes people down a rabbit hole, or I can see how people end up homeless. I can see how people end up committing suicide, or their choices are just not rational. And I think that's why we need to support each other so much. And this is one thing why I'm not a huge... I want to find a way we can regulate social media, honestly. Right. And you could probably speak to this better than me because you work with the youth a lot. And to me, it just seems like we're in this comparison vacuum where we're comparing our lives daily on what we see. And if you don't see it, it's kind of to your point. It's like you see something on social media and you're like, damn, I'm out here grinding, busting my ass, doing all the things I should. And that person has this or that, or they look so happy. And I just feel like it's this ginormous fake advertisement vacuum. Right. And it just, I don't know, man. I think science would agree with me because if you look at the statistics, there's a direct correlation with depression, anxiety, suicides, and the time that the internet had basically really took off. And then if you look at where the social media really took off, Facebook, Instagram, all these other platforms, I mean, there's a direct correlation with that. If you watch, have you ever watched Social Dilemma on Netflix?
I have not seen that.
Watch it, man. Okay. On Netflix. It's a documentary they did, and it's a trip. It's scary on how they kind of basically show you how these ginormous companies, social media platforms, how they target us. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing that we don't realize is that we're giving up so much of our intellectual property, right? That's why these things are free.
No, I like how you said that, intellectual property.
Yeah, because I think that's the currency now.
Right.
Is like nobody's paying me to do this podcast or anything, but the way that I can monetize it is because of my intellectual property. Mm. Basically, what I'm willing to give in my experiences, right. And that's where people make money nowadays. Right. But what sucks is that the data that they collect on us, mm-hmm. and then they distribute that to millions of people, and then you can pay to advertise to that person. You know, so it's scary to me that they can get away with this, and we need to realize as a human race, we need to be able to think, why is all this stuff free? I mean, you think you put all this information out there, and it's wanting you to put information out there because then they sell your information. Mm-hmm. It's just sad to me.
Yeah, it is. It is, and and when it comes to social media, I mean, that's one of the biggest challenges we have, right, with young people today. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We're finding that children, I mean, hell, all of us, in some degree, lack empathy. We are so into our social media that we don't take the time long enough to look someone in the eye to eye, and hold a conversation. We are so disengaged, if you will, and so everybody's in their own little cubicle, and definitely even with children and young people, that's definitely a challenge, right, to peel them away from social media so they can learn to look another person, face to face, mm-hmm. eye to eye, and hold a conversation. And the first thing we want to do, Johnny is crying, here, take my phone and watch a cartoon.
Yeah, it's a great babysitter. Like here's a
exactly the social media has become a surrogate parent, if you will, and so that's one of the issues that we're dealing with in society. But I know at my place of residence, there is no cell phones welcome at my dinner table. I tell people that all the time. I'm gonna have a dinner. You're welcome to come over, but your cell phone is not welcome. You bring it, but I will not compete with you to hold a conversation with you while you're checking your Facebook page.
Yeah.
I
need to do that more.
I'm not going to. I went to lunch with a friend of mine once, and I declare unto you, I was on my phone that whole lunch engagement. And my friend said to me afterwards, thank you for your time. Appreciated your time. And I felt so bad.
Yeah.
Because my face was in that phone, looking down. And ridiculous. Ridiculous.
I've been there. I catch myself doing that when my kids are around sometimes.
Yeah. I couldn't tell you one conversation. I can't tell you one conversation we had.
Man.
And I learned my lesson from that.
There's this quote that I read years ago, and it just sticks with me. It goes something like pay attention what you're doing today because you're exchanging a day of your life for it.
Exactly.
And so when I, a lot of times I'll tell people like, hey, thanks for exchanging some time with me, because you're basically like right now in this podcast, you're exchanging this hour of your life for me.
Which I love, by the way.
Cool, man. Yeah, I really appreciate that. But it's like, it makes, for me, it just kind of put it into perspective of like what I should prioritize in my life, because it's just like we literally, what is it? We're 43 minutes into this. So, I mean, just meeting you at my door 43 minutes ago, we'll never, ever live that moment again in our life. It's just the sands going down the bottle, right?
Exactly.
And this is something that I preach to my young kids is like, get the best out of it and do your best and just try to soak it up, because don't try not to get so many pissed off days where you can't remember those days.
Right.
Because if you want to erase those days, I mean, you'll just never, ever live those again. Like my kids will, I find it a good opportunity to bring it up when they tell me, like, you know, most people that have young kids, their kids kind of get on the date thing. They start realizing how to read dates. Like today's January 4th. Or, it's kind of been big last month, right? Because it was 2021.
Right.
And my kids are like, oh, you know, 2020 is a dumpster fire. Like, I'm excited for 2021. I hope the coronavirus goes away, you know? And it's like, yes, but let's try we don't want to wish things forward, because you'll just never, ever get that time. That day's gone. See ya. Yeah. And so for me, it kind of scares me. I'm always nervous to like leave here on earth too early without accomplishing what I want. But I realized there was many years where I've wasted. You know, I haven't given, I don't know, it's a learning process, right? And I'm not one to say, man, every day you should just go 100%, because I think that then you just burn yourself out.
Right.
But it's like learning how to be in the present.
Right. Right.
And for me, that's hard.
And you said the key word, being present. I think some people think, and I'm a victim of this also. Well, I'm here, you know, I'm in the room, but are you present?
Right.
In the room, versus just this body taking up space, you know, in the room. Like you said, being present at the moment, because you cannot get it back. You cannot get it back. And so, and there's two things we don't have. We don't have yesterday, and we don't have tomorrow. Those are two things we do not have. Mm-hmm. What we do have, however, is right now. This is what we have. And so, and when you're trying to live in yesterday and trying to deal with tomorrow, you're not present now. Mm-hmm. You know, and so it behooves all of us to slow down enough and be present in the lives of the people that we love. You know, because you can't, like you said, you definitely can't get it back.
Yeah, and how valuable relationships are. Right. You know, that was something I think if anybody younger out there is listening to this right now, I mean, work really hard on developing great relationships. I'm not saying have a ginormous circle. In fact, I would suggest to you to keep your circle kind of small.
Right.
So you have just enough people where you can actually be very who you are. Like, hey, here's my faults. Here's what I'm feeling today.
Right. This is it.
Yeah. Instead of like when you have a big circle, and this happens with a lot of younger people, especially kids around college age, is that you try to put on a persona for people, and it tricks your brain, because it's like, this isn't who I am, but this is who I think people want me to be.
Right.
And I went through that stage. I would say it was in high school. In high school, you're really trying to like popularity and you know what I mean? I want people to like me. And then it kind of carried into my young adulthood. And it wasn't until I probably hit 25. I felt like that was really when I came into my own skin.
Okay.
That's when my wife and I got pregnant with our first son. And for me, it was kind of like, okay, I don't need to have all this nice stuff, this material stuff. It's empty. Right. And so I think that's kind of what led to the anxiety and depression, is that I was trying so hard to have so much stuff so people would think that I was cool.
Right.
And then I realized, man, at the end of the day, like right now, it's just me, my wife, and my son. Brand new baby, you know? And it's like, it was just an epic moment. And it just put it into perspective for me. It's like, okay, this is life.
Right.
Right here.
Right. And this was, there's a quote that I can't remember who penned the quote, but it says, I'd rather be hated for who I am than to be loved for who I'm not.
Mm.
I'd rather be hated for who I am than to be loved for who I'm not. And there's one thing about bees. Bees are definitely, in my opinion, smarter than humans because they know you never find bees swarming around trying to draw nectar from artificial flowers. They know what's real and what's not, you know. And for a bee to try and draw nectar from something that's plastic and artificial, they will surely die. And so we just need to learn, like bees do, to know what's real and what's not. And where should I be drawing my nectar from? You know, it's a waste of time. You know, if I'm out in the garden and you ask me what I'm doing and I'm watering the flowers and you take note that they're all artificial, then you're going to call somebody to come pick me up, right? Because I've really lost my mind now.
This guy's gone crazy.
Yeah, you know, and so it's a waste of time trying to draw nectar from things that are not real. And, you know, having nice things, I mean, do I want a hot tub in my backyard? Sure. Yeah. I mean, who doesn't, you know?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if I am no longer, or if I don't have the opportunity to see the next day, I definitely can't take what I have with me. Mm-hmm. You know, I can't take those things with me. And so my relationship with people is very, very, very important. Mother Teresa will always say, she said, I want people's lives to be transformed when they leave my presence. I want something to be said or something to be done, just like with this podcast. Mm-hmm. I mean, this podcast is important because this is a way for people's voice to be heard. And there's no telling where that voice will take. I mean, we're sitting here in Idaho Falls, but there could be somebody in
across the world
hearing something that says, you know what? That podcast is the reason why I didn't jump off the bridge. Mm-hmm. That my relationship with my partner is better, or my son or my daughter. And so I think this is an awesome avenue.
Yeah,
that
me
you
too.
Have to really help people see and learn that, you know what, you're not alone.
Yeah, well, I think it clears, for me, it just drowns out the noise of like social media. There's to what you were saying is with the bees. I love that because it's so true. And I feel like social media is so fake. It's so artificial, you know, because it's about your status. And if you don't, and if you are sitting here or listening to the podcast, you're like, no, it's not. Okay. Then tell me you don't get just a little excited if a like comes across. Or you don't look at the like and like, oh, I got 17 likes. All right, people are seeing this.
I do it all the time.
Okay.
I was like, I'm going to see who.
There you go, man. It tells you that psychologically that this is what happens. Right. Is that we evolve into it. And so our brains evolve like we need it. It becomes like sugar or a drug. Exactly. It's like you kind of need that. And it gives you a little bit of a high. And it sparks those endorphins, and you're just kind of like, I like that.
Right. And if you don't get the likes.
Yeah, you put an epic video or something on there, like, oh man, this is so dope, and I want to just share this with somebody.
Right.
And then it has like one like, you're like, damn. Like, did I do something?
Exactly.
Did I offend somebody? What's going on?
Exactly.
And it's weird to me, and that's my point with the social media stuff is like, look, man, take it for what it is. I think it's a great outlet. I use it for business and marketing and advertising and building a brand. And I try to stay reserved with my personal stuff as much as I can. You know, I used to tell my wife all the time, like she would share pictures of our kids, like really, really intimate moments, you know, and I'm like, hey, don't blast that out everywhere. Like it kind of just bothered me a little bit, you know, because I like the tight circle. And I just felt like it on the flip side of that, what's kind of nice is I've lost photos and stuff through my phone. But then like, or Facebook will remind me of like a memory, right? Pop something up, and I'm just like, damn, I'm glad that was there. It's kind of like this virtual scrapbook,
right?
Almost, you know.
Right.
Before you get out of here, though, you said you produced a couple books or published a few books.
I have. Yes.
What are those books?
So the first book I published is Reflections from the Heart, and the second book is Journey of 1,000 Miles. And so I'm working on a third book slowly but surely. I'm trying to get it done, and hopefully eventually venture into children book writing. And so I love words. I always listen, and you learn to do that in the industry I'm in because I work with kids. And so I learned to really pay attention to what a person is saying or not saying through what they're saying, and so
that's the challenging thing with kids, is like their communication skills are not up to par. So you have to really understand and be paying attention to really all the key signs, right?
You have to really pay attention to help that child because, of course, they don't know how to articulate.
Right.
That mom and dad was fighting all night and I didn't get any sleep and or whatever the case may be. So you have to really, really pay attention and like Maslow hierarchy of needs, make sure the basic needs are met. You can't get to self-actualization until the basic needs are met. It's hard to get a child to focus with ABCs if he's hungry or haven't gotten any sleep. And you have to know that the child is not being defiant. The child is tired. The child is hungry. Feed the child. Allow the child to sleep. And then when the child is ready, you will get the results that you're looking for, from the child. But you have to really, really pay attention and really know that. So
yeah. Well, I'm glad you're doing it, man. Seriously, we need more people like you in this world. Because it takes a big heart. My oldest brother, he's always been that way. He's always been a giver and somebody who served, and I just look up to him for that tremendously because it takes courage to do it, honestly. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of sacrifice.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You can't necessarily focus on what you want to be doing because you're giving so much of yourself. One of my good friends, she came on the podcast. She was like the second episode that I had. And she talked to me about being selfishly you. And sometimes we have to be selfish in a good way to take care of ourselves. Like, running, right? For you and stuff it's like, I need to take care of myself because if I don't do that, then I can't take care of other people.
Can't do it.
I can't serve. And so we need to realize that, and whatever that is for you, whether it's, God, exercise, food,
glass of
wine, absolutely. Like just something to decompress. I've heard a lot of people, and I've read so many books about like self-help, and I've just always been pulled to that type of stuff, and motivation stuff. And I'm not somebody that's like, if you didn't see me in the podcast and I was out in public, it's funny because I'm an introvert, but I have very extroverted jobs, like being an insurance agent, and doing presentations in front of people and public speaking. My wife owns a dance studio here in Idaho Falls, and anytime she has a big recital, she always has me go MC the event, but I'm really, once the lights are off, I'm very very introverted.
I'm the same way.
So it's hard for me to.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
But I don't know. It's just weird. Like I can flip a switch and I can just be on because I felt like that's how I just get stuff done. I don't know. It's just the way that my whole brain is wired. But damn, I love to shut it off and just whoop. Don't want anybody really around. I just want to vibe out and just hang out. And some people, my wife is like, man, are you grumpy? You got a freaking RBF face, And I'm like, I'm good. Like we'll be driving in the car and she'll look over at me like I'm ready to just like jump out of the vehicle going 60. And I'm like, I'm just in thought.
I'm the same way.
I'm just in thought. Yeah. Just like, I'm good.
I'm good. Just let me just vegetate here for a moment. I'm good. Get a good, like for me on Sundays, I'll grab my book, go down to the villa downtown.
Okay.
And, I'll go get mimosa and just have my book and read and just, that's my way of refueling too.
Yeah.
And then I can, I'm okay. I'm not, whatever. Just give me a moment. Just give me some time to myself and then I'll be back. I'll be back to you, So.
That's cool, man. Yeah. I was going to ask you what What books have you been reading lately that you would recommend to some of your listeners, or some of the listeners out there?
Mark Nepo is a good book.
That's the title of it?
Yeah.
Or is that the author?
He's the author. The name of the book is The One Life We're Given. And so that's an outstanding book. And he has other books, too, that I can't remember to name at this moment. But I've been reading Robert Frost, a lot of his poetry. I visited his home. I think that was one of our third grade field trips one time to go to his cottage. And so I remember that.
Are you serious?
Oh, yeah.
He's the one that, did he write The Raven? Or what is it? No. Hold on. I remember reading Robert Frost in high school. A poem.
And I just mentioned him. I can't think of the poem, but I'll probably get in the car and like, oh, there's that poem.
It sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Like I swear I've had to recite a poem.
Yeah, Robert. I read a little bit of his poetry and but The One Life We're Given, I recommend that book, Mark Nepo. Excellent book. Excellent. And it's very raw. He talked about himself a lot in the book, a lot of struggles and his jobs, his relationships. And so it's very, very real book. And so I recommend that book.
Yeah. One of the, last year I made a goal to read 12 books in the year. I think I only hit
Did you make it?
I think I hit 7 or 8.
Well, that's
but
good.
Still, dude, I was like, hell yeah, I'll take 7 or 8.
Yeah.
But the reason why, well, this isn't the only reason why, but I read one twice. And I've never done that. I've never went back and read a book twice.
It was a good book. I've done that before.
Yeah. It was David Goggins' book.
Oh, okay.
Have you read that yet?
I have not read it, but The One Life We're Given, I read that twice. This is my second time reading it.
Man. Like if a book, I never geek out. I mean, I kind of geek out on books a little bit now. But man, that was the first book that I can recall where I ever read it twice. I mean, just back to back. It was almost like you're watching something really good on Netflix and you're like, oh,
you're right.
Okay, gotta wait for the next season. Here we go. You know, and it's like a next season type deal. I read it back to back and I was just like floored by the book. And as a part of me giving me the drive to start the podcast when I have thousands of other things going on. Like I had no business adding more to my plate. But that's what I was like, damn it, I'm going to tell people and show people that you can do something to fill your passion, because that's what was driving negative results in my life. Right. It was everything else was bringing me down because I was handcuffed. Right. You know, and I'm still handcuffed. I'm handcuffed to certain jobs. And I think most 99% of people listening to this podcast, you're working for somebody else. You're not necessarily satisfied with it, but you're handcuffed to the damn job because of the benefits that it gives you. Right. You know, the corporate package deal. No, I need a retirement plan. Right. And it's like, I'm saying you don't have to go against that, but don't go out of this life without at least trying some sort of side hustle that you believe in, or like if you want to write books, or if you want to write poetry, or if you want to go, you know, skydiving, or if you want to teach kids. Like if you thought, I met this lady the other day that she talked about, oh, it'd be so fun to do a preschool. Mm-hmm. I'm like, waiting for more. Right. You know, right. That's just kind of my attitude now. It's like, okay, well, let's do it. Right. Do it. Do it. Like, how big's the preschool? I mean, like, we build these mountains up in our head, and then it becomes, it's like you get this aha moment, and then all of a sudden we're trained to retract it. Like, oh, damn, I don't think my husband will let me do that. I don't think my wife will let me do that. My kids, well, I coach t-ball here. You know, I go snowmobiling or snowboarding with my friends at this time. What about my social life? And then you start retracting yourself from this awesome thing that I think we need to follow those more. Of like, hey, I need to go talk to this person. Right. You know? Then go talk to that person. You never know what's going to come out of it. Just say hi to them. Right. Oh, and just so well. See what happens. Because sometimes if you just live in a turtle shell, I mean, that's all you're going to get is inside that damn turtle shell. And then you're going to say, well, why me? Right. Why didn't this ever come to fruition? Oh, and then my favorite thing is when you see somebody had started something. Maybe it's a business, right? A business idea. And the one person's hating on them because that was my idea. I wanted to do that. Right. And they start hating. Right. And I'm like, are you serious right now? Like, everybody thinks it just takes stacks of cash.
Right.
Okay, well, let me present a challenge to you. Let's say I gave you $30,000 right now. What would you do with that $30,000? A lot of people, they wouldn't know what to do.
Right.
You know, like they wouldn't, their idea, they get stuck on everything on why it's not going to work, man.
Right. And you know what? And I worked in hospice for 2 years as a hospice coordinator. And I had 25 patients. And I was there for each one of my patients while they were going through the death process, mm-hmm. holding their hands and putting ice chips around their lips because their lips were parched as they were exiting the world. And I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with my clients or patients about regrets, you know, and it's pretty sad, you know, to get to that place, to be on your deathbed mm-hmm. with regrets. If I had more time, I would do this. If I had more time, I would tell my mom I love her. Mm-hmm. Or if I had more time, I would have started that business or podcast or whatever. I mean, and so you're absolutely right. You know, if you have a dream or a vision, and I'm learning this. That mean it came easy, but I'm learning that, you know what, Donovan? You only got one shot at this. Mm-hmm. Do it. You know, and so I agree with you. 100%.
That's what I call living your someday life, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why I do #that someday life. Like, I want it to start trending to where they're like, when they're doing something hard or working towards a certain goal, or maybe they just wrote a poem or something. It's like #someday life, you know?
Right.
Like, I'm working towards something. And I'm no longer choosing to say someday I'll do this or someday I'll do that. Right. In fact, since I started this podcast, I don't know, the universe just works in weird ways, man. It attracts things and people and things that you see and read, right? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it just opened my eyes up more to it. Like if you drive like a certain car, then you notice that car a lot more
right.
on the road, you know?
Right.
And so maybe that whole someday thing, I saw, I can't remember what it was. It might have been a commercial, man. This old timer, this old dude is in a yacht. And you know how they name the boats? You know, like when they name like a boat,
yeah.
like, Santa Maria or
right.
the Vision or the Ocean, or they name their boats. This dude he's retired and he named his boat Someday.
Mm.
It said Someday on the back of it. And I'm like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
I go, that's exactly kind of my whole idea, you know? It's just weird how the universe kind of brings that in. I swear it was like a commercial. I seen it for like 3 seconds. I'm like, dude, that would be badass to actually name your boat someday. Cause that guy, he's saying, look, I'm done, man. I'm retired.
Right.
The chips fell where they were, and I'm going to name my boat someday. Cause I always wanted a big boat.
Wow.
Kind of weird.
That's interesting.
Anyways, Donovan, let's get out of here. I got basketball practice to go coach.
Absolutely.
So what I would say to everybody listening to the podcast, or if you're watching it on YouTube, do us a solid. Help us get some money raised for the Y. I mean, this playground thing it's an easy way to serve. And if you are a person that is on the fence about giving money, you know, like this is tangible. This is something that you can see. It's not like, hey, I gave the homeless guy $5 on the corner. I don't know what the hell he's going to go do with it. Or, hey, we're going to donate. Hey, do you want to donate money to the food bank or this or that? Like, you're not seeing it. So some people are skeptical about it. You can alleviate all that with this. This is something that we can actually go see. You can see the kids enjoy it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So you don't got to worry. Like, it's just people are funny with giving money. But don't give to expect anything back. My older brother has taught me this, is if you're going to give, just give. Don't ask. Don't even imagine anything in return.
Right.
No expectations.
Right.
Like if you got $100, just give the $100 and that's it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And so help us get this money. Go to, what's the website again?
So the website is www.idahofallsymca.org. Or you can email me if you like, dstokes, STOKES, at idahofallsymca.org. That's my email. Or you can call me, 719-205-3750, if you have any further questions about it. But my slogan is, we're better together. Yes. And collectively we can get this done, and the kids have a safe place to enjoy themselves. And so, absolutely. So help us. Yeah. And so,
you got some other cool things coming up to raise some money too. Probably can't quite talk about those quite yet, but
yeah, we do have something coming up in the month of April. I believe with Dave Nelson, with County Line, they're going to do a benefit concert at the Kelt. That has been confirmed. Okay. As far as the location, and I believe it's going to be on the 3rd, on that Saturday, the first Saturday in April. Awesome. And it's going to be an all-day event with music bingo and DJ bingo and nice concert, great food, great entertainment. There'll be donation boxes there and opportunities to give that way too. So we're just looking to bring the community together and have a great time.
That's awesome. Yeah, my wife's looking. She owns Motion Dance Academy here in Isle Falls, and she's looking to donate a bunch of money, and she's trying to figure out a way to get all the kids and the students there involved, you know what I mean? Absolutely. And get the parents involved and stuff, because it's a really cool community that she's built, and she's wanting to get involved in this, so she's pretty stoked. Awesome. So
definitely appreciate it. Definitely appreciate you also having me here.
Yeah,
today.
Man.
What a great honor.
We'll have to get you back on again. Sorry, it was just like straight up like a 30-minute notice, almost like, hey, you want to come on the podcast? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I enjoy every last minute of it. So I thank you very much.
Cool, man. Well, Donovan, thank you. And guys, check out the podcast. Share it with your friends. Share the link. I'm going to share a link of the YMCA where you can go. You can just click the link. You can go follow that. We'll post the QR code. Check out my social media. Check out Donovan's social media. It's getting all over the place. So help us out with it, man. We really appreciate it, guys. We'll talk to you again.